Round one, after a successful lightweight title defense, Khabib Nurmagomedov is 28-0 and appears to be unstoppable. So Ariel, is Khabib the most dominant fighter in UFC history?
Yes, unequivocally yes. And I want to make something very clear here. Just because he's the most dominant fighter in UFC history doesn't necessarily mean he's the best fighter in UFC history. Doesn't mean I'm saying he's the GOAT, the greatest of all time. Doesn't even mean I'm saying he's the pound for pound king. But if you're asking about pure dominance, yes. And let me explain why. This man is now 12-0 in the UFC, 28-0 as a professional. He has only lost one round, Chael, in his UFC career. That was round 3 against Conor McGregor. And so when you consider the record, 28-0, no one who has fought in the UFC has ever started that kind of career like that, undefeated in his first 28 fights. That is absurd, especially in MMA. It's very common in boxing, not so much in the sport of mixed martial arts. So we've never seen a UFC fighter start his career undefeated like that. 12-0 in the UFC, like I said, and then on top of all of this, he is beating guys up. He is stifling them. He is suffocating them. It is very one-sided when he fights. Yes, his opponents have moments of brilliance like Dustin Poirier had in the second round and the guillotine in the third, but overall it is very one-sided, it is very dominant, so I feel very comfortable in saying this man, as of right now, is the most dominant fighter in the history of the sport.
Sure, Ariel, and don't forget about who he's taken on as well. I mean, this is the absolute best of the best. He had RDA way back on like an undercard that totally gets forgot about, and it was a real one-sided affair. I want to tell you this, though, Helwani, on this topic. I'm not sure we've seen how good he is. I really do mean that. Whenever you have a guy that can go out one-dimensional and do that same skill, rinse and repeat night after night, that creates an illusion in the viewer's mind that that is the only skill he has. By example, do you remember when George St. Pierre would just tackle everybody and make it like a dirty jiu-jitsu match, and everybody said, well, if he ever faces a wrestler where he can't take him down, George's days are done. And then he faced that wrestler. His name was Matt Hughes. George couldn't take him down, so he knocked him out with a head kick. And then we all go, oh my goodness, we had no idea he was so good at the stand-up. I feel that's what we're seeing with Khabib, Ariel. I think that is a misconception. I think that it would be very lazy and very irresponsible to come to the conclusion that he's not a great stand-up fighter should he end up having to stand with somebody. We don't have the evidence, but we've seen him do moments with Ally Aquina, and he won those moments. We saw him do a moment with Conor McGregor, and he set Conor down, and this is after Conor coming off the heels of Floyd Mayweather not being able to set him down. I'm just saying, Ariel, to your point, yes, he's the most dominant, and I really don't know that we have seen all the skills that he possesses.
And that's a scary thought, and I know there's probably someone out there watching this show right now who is saying to themselves, did you guys forget about Jon Jones? Johnny Bones Jones, never been defeated, has that one loss on his record, but of course we both know that was somewhat of a fugazi loss. He shouldn't have lost that fight against Matt Hamill. And so, yeah, I'll see your Jon Jones, but I'll respond with this, and this is no knock on Jon. There have been times where Jon has looked invincible. There have been times where Jon has lost rounds. Heck, there have been times where you can argue that Jon lost a fight. Alexander Gustafsson, there are some people who believe he lost to Thiago Santos in his last fight. He has been bloodied, he has been bruised, he has been cut open. None of that has ever happened to Khabib Nurmagomedov. If you look at every picture of Khabib right after his fight, like when his hand is being raised, there is never a mark on his face. There's never a cut, a bloody nose, anything like that. It's very reminiscent of what Cyborg was doing for a long time before she, of course, lost to Amanda Nunes. And so I want people to really understand this. We're not trying to knock Jon Jones here. You could say he's the greatest ever. You could say he's a pound-for-pound king. But as far as sheer dominance and the fact that this man goes out there and beats these guys, and very tough guys, as you just pointed out, in such a fashion where he's, compiling 10-8s here and doing whatever he does against the likes of Dustin Poirier and, as you said, Ally Quinta recently. I mean, these are like top guys and tough guys and guys who it's very hard to make quit, say uncle. It's just that darn impressive. It really is. And that's why one day I'd love to see him fight GSP, because I think GSP, I held him in a similar regard. But for now, this is the man. This is the most dominant fighter. And I know that's a big statement, but I feel very comfortable saying that statement.
I feel like you have numbers to back you up there, though. I mean, right, 10-8 rounds against different guys, finishing different guys, only losing one round, taking fights on short notice, taking on former world champions. I fully agree with the dominance. I heard you bring up Jon Jones, but that is a little bit of a different conversation, because now you're talking about skills. Jon is just so dynamic. Jon can do so many things with his feet, with his elbows, with his length, with his takedowns. We've even seen him do a little bit of guard work, if you remember the Rashad Evans fight. different conversation, though. If we're just talking about who goes out there and really never has to make his own fans go, oh no, are we in a tough spot? It's Khabib. He's running over guys, Helwani.
You know what's crazy? Like, there was that one moment against Michael Johnson at UFC 205 where Michael seemed to rock him a little bit, and people still talk about that one moment. Like, the one moment where he kind of had wobbly legs. It's very reminiscent of Floyd Mayweather. Remember when Shane Mosley brought him down to a knee and people were like, oh my God, he's actually human. That's the one moment people talk about with Floyd. We're starting to see the same kind of thing now with Khabib Nurmagomedov.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports and analysis, download the ESPN app. And for live streaming and special content, subscribe to ESPN+.